This episode is brought to you by Bull Johnson, who is running for Congress in Minnesota's 7th District. If you want to find out more about what Bull is doing in his exciting campaign to give members of that district more choices, go to bulljohnsonforcongress.us.
And now, Matt Wright and Spike Cohen.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, if he was a member of King Arthur's Round Table, his knight's name would be Sir Cum-sized Cohen. I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
It's so crazy how, knowing circumcised, now it sounds okay, but man, that first time, boy, did that sound it didn't sound Jewish. It sounded just bad. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in.
Is somebody who's not circumcised just cum-sized?
Wherever you're watching this.
Wherever you are watching us on, listening to us, we thank you. And to all of you, especially to our subscribers, we say, Ula Vanaka.
Ula Vanaka. And wherever you are watching or listening to this, thank you for doing so. And be sure to subscribe, comment, all the various things. And if you're subscribing on YouTube, don't just subscribe, hit the bell. We want your phone to explode with notifications every single time we go live. And of course, be sure to share this right now on any social media you have. Give the gift of muddied waters today. Kids love it.
Kids love it. But do you know what kids don't love? Student loan debt.
That's fair. That's fair. But thankfully, Joe Biden has a plan to make it much, much worse. Have a temporary pocket of relief just in time for the elections, but then make it much worse. Totally unlike what government does with literally everything. Joe Biden is expected, has not done so as of when this is being recorded, but it's likely that it will have happened by the time you're seeing it. So we're just going to go ahead and say Joe Biden has announced very recently that he has forgiving student loan debts on the first $10,000 of any student loan debt, as well as extending the pause until at least after the November elections. I wonder why that's the date that he's picking. And by the way, that pause is never ending. That will never this is the ultimate can kicking down the road. I don't think it's going to end.
I think
if
this
it is,
pause
it's not going
will.
to be for quite some time.
This pause will end,
Really?
but
Okay.
it'll be in 2025.
Yeah.
I think Joe Biden's going to push this down the line as far as he can, so that way he can say, "Well, I did what I could to help you guys with your student loan." But
He's not bringing it back during a recession, and we're entering a pretty deep recession. He's not bringing back student loan,
which is weird because he won't
during
admit
recession.
that.
Yeah, he won't admit that.
He won't
just
admit we're in
that
a
recession.
he won't admit we're in a recession. You're saying
He'll say, "I remember back when my parents were figuring out which bills to pay or not pay." Like he really remembers that. But anyway, I remember when you were deciding what bills to pay and what bills not to pay, and that's why I'm doing all the stuff I'm doing now. But also, our inflation isn't that bad, and our economy's doing great. Well, which is it? 'Cause
gas prices are down
you're remembering-
$1.72.
Yeah, after being up like $3. But also, real quick, when your parents were making those decisions, that was during the Depression. So, why are you seeing parallels here?
You're gonna
That's
get
a question to ask.
You're gonna get fact checked for that statement and be like, Joe Biden was not alive during the Depression.
Well, wait, when Joe Biden...
He's 79.
Are my
so
numbers off?
Yeah, so he was born in like 19... maybe he was alive during the Depression.
42. Wow,
42,
I'm
yeah,
off.
okay, 42.
Wow, okay, so I'm way off. So it wasn't during the Depression. That was during
That was the end of World War II.
The late 40s.
Yeah.
So I'm now wondering if that ever happened. But regardless, you can't say the economy's going gangbusters and also say that I get that everyone is figuring out what bills they can pay. It's one or the other. This is
right.
It's either going well or it's not. So we're talking about student loan debt forgiveness on the first $10,000. Now, just to make it clear, this is not forgiveness.
No.
Forgiveness is when someone who lends you money says you don't have to pay them back or pay them back that amount or whatever it is. That's a forgiveness.
Right.
This is the government paying that debt to the lenders and then charging you in the form of taxes, debt, and inflation due to monetary creation to finance that debt that was created. You know, everything the government has done on everything. More taxes, more debt, which means future taxes, and more inflation due to the monetary creation to finance that debt. This is not, it's just transferring the debt from college student or actually people that graduated from college to people mostly who didn't.
Yeah.
So you now have plumbers and factory workers,
or to people who paid
small
it
business
off.
owners, or people who paid it off, who are subsidizing multi-billion-dollar university systems. So to put this in perspective, Harvard has a $42 billion endowment. They got $42 billion of cash and relatively liquid assets, investments. That doesn't include like the property they own and stuff like that. They're non-fungible. This is just their stuff they have. This is just their money and their investments, like they're at that $42 billion. That's larger than Afghanistan, incidentally. The Yale has a $31 billion endowment, and many other hospital systems as well. But university systems have multi-billion-dollar or multi-hundred-million-dollar endowments, and you've got people who now get to meet the 87,000 new IRS agents who are going to be auditing their Etsy accounts to pay for this. It is incredible to me that we're even... So this is a textbook example of pandering to people who don't understand economics, and because they don't understand economics, you are setting them up knowingly for a future, for a rope-a-dope where they will be victimized even further by the very thing you claimed you were saving them from. And all along, they will clap and cheer because they have no idea the very easy to explain process of what's happening here.
So speaking of pandering to people who don't understand economics, of that $42 billion that Harvard was getting,
yeah,
we can all take solace in the fact that they were giving $400,000 to Liz Warren to teach one class.
Thinking incorrectly that she was a Native American.
Right. And also that she understood economics.
Yeah.
But this is going to be complete sidebar, but I was thinking about this earlier today because, like you said, the 87,000 new IRS agents that are going to be monitoring Etsy accounts and going to be monitoring your Venmos and shit like that. Today, literally today, superfan Sarah Andrag needed to pay for something, but she doesn't have an ATM for her bank, and she did not want to pay the fee to pull out the money. So she transferred it to me through Zelle, and it was over $600. I'm probably going to get taxed for that.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, you should have just paid the $2.
But thankfully, someone who went to a liberal arts college to get a degree that almost certainly, or in many cases, did not factor in marketable skills whatsoever,
None.
will have that debt at least partially subsidized, which again only subsidizes two groups here get subsidized: the lender and the university. The only thing, because the real problem here is that tuitions cost too much and lenders are making bank on bad loans that they know aren't going to get paid off. If you pay those loans off, you are incentivizing the lenders to keep giving bad loans and the universities to increase their tuition rates. There is a very simple way to fix the
But
student loan problem. Go ahead.
so before we get to that, and I think I know where you're going with that, the way that we
Yeah.
got to where we are on student loans is back in the 1990s or the late 1900s, as Gen Z calls it, and I hate them. Um, how dare you, Gen Z?
Because they weren't even alive then. They weren't even alive.
Yeah, they weren't around. Um, so back in the 1990s, student loans were government loans. But what a lot of people were doing is they were getting their degrees. Doctors were doing this especially, as they were getting their degrees, and then they would just declare bankruptcy, and they'd write off the loan, and it'd just go away. So in the early 2000s, Congress got together and they said, hey, we need to stop this from happening because it's costing us a lot of money. How do we do that? And some upstart from Delaware, who had been in office since like 1970 something, said, hey, how about we make it where you can't write these off on your bankruptcies? And it passed. I remember back then, a lot of my friends were going to school at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. And they said that tuitions were just climbing exponentially year after year after this was passed. It passed, it was signed, it went through, and year after year, tuitions just started going higher and higher. And that was because the schools knew that there was no way they weren't going to get that money. It was going to be paid or it was going to be backed by the federal government. They knew one of those two things.
Yeah.
So schools started going, okay, let's spend all we can. And to do that, we will raise tuition rates because they can't write these things off. So tuition rates just started exponentially going higher and higher and higher. And people just were like, okay, well, you need a college education to get by. You need a college education to get by. I will point to you two examples, one of whom has a college education and the other one who does not. And the one who has a college education is on the left side of your screen, and he makes less than, or if you're listening, the one talking right now, he makes less than $100,000 a year. The other one retired 3 years ago and then decided to start working harder. I don't understand that part, for no money, but I guess that makes me the smarter one. But college education is not a meter of success.
No.
When they took a poll, something like 58%, 59% of people in college believed that when they got out, they were going to start out with a job making $105,000 a year. When in all actuality, you are going to come out and you probably start right around that $50,000 a year mark. But you are going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point in order to get $50,000 a year in salary.
Yeah. I remember being 15, 16 years old, and I was watching these ads with Zach and Screech from Saved by the Bell, who were explaining why you should go to college. This was on like, I don't know, Saturday morning TV, or no, I guess this would have been early teens, so I'm not sure what I was watching. But Zach and Screech, the people I grew up with.
You were watching Saved by the Bell in
or-
college years, weren't you? When they were in prime time.
Oh, you know what? I might have been. Yeah. Or Saved by the Bell when they went to the beach for a while there. They were at the beach.
That was still
for,
Saturday.
like-
That was still Saturday morning.
was that still Saved by the Bell?
That was still Saved by the Bell. Yeah, that was still Saved by the Bell.
Okay. Well,
that
at
was
any
when he
rate-
met Leah Remini. And Leah Remini was his girlfriend for a summer.
Leah Remini, and she kept him away from Scientology. No, she tried to get him to join Scientology back then. So anyway, so I'm watching this, and they're explaining. They're even showing charts, and they're saying, if you go, if you don't go to college, you're going to make this much on average. But if you do go to college, you make this much. And I remember looking at that and thinking, yeah, but you have to take 4 to 8 years of your potentially productive working years off, and you have to pay for that. And I didn't do the math on if you come ahead there, but I thought, and again, this was me at 12, 13, something like that, and I thought maybe it was younger, but I think it was early teens, late tweens or whatever. And I thought, I'm guessing that unless you're like going to be a doctor or lawyer or something like that, that this isn't going to work. That this actually isn't a good thing to pursue. And so I ruled it out quickly. That's why I started my business. Now, not everyone is going to start a business, and that's fine.
At
But
13.
the reality is, at what?
At 13.
Well, I didn't start a business at 13. I started at 16.
I
It's
thought
not being unreasonable.
You saw Zach and Screech talking about college, and you're like, no, I'm starting my business now. Let me learn how to code.
I'm starting a business now. I'm starting one right now. This is now the Spike Cohen Company. We'll figure out what we're doing in about 3 years, but I'm starting the company right now. So I couldn't have been the only one seeing that scam, but the problem was the way they sold it, especially to our generation, was trusted figures telling you that this was all going to work out. And little did we know that they were going to take away the one thing that actually could hold bad lenders accountable, which is being able to discharge it with bankruptcy.
Yep.
And so they get rid of that ability, so that lenders now have no negative feedback mechanism on, if you don't pay it, then they're guaranteed by the government thanks to Obamacare. And why would Obamacare have anything to do with that? But that is what happened. So now it's already underwritten by the federal government, just like your garbage mortgages are. And so now that's, that problem has been created. And so now there is no mechanism, there is no equilibrium, there's no potential negative feedback, there's nothing that stops universities from charging whatever they want for tuition and lenders just giving out whatever loans they want to whoever they want, regardless of any perceived ability to pay back. And this move, which will not be the last time they do this will just lead to more future forgivenesses or taxpayer bailouts and more future pauses on payment, which ultimately are just going to continue to make the problem worse until eventually what I think is going to happen is the government one day is just going to step in and say universal college, any college you want to go to. And if you think that if you don't like the government-run primary education system, wait till you see them take over colleges. And by that I mean, wait till you see America no longer be the number one place for higher education. Because the United States, prior to the Federal Department of Education, was the number one education system in the world. And since then, and trillions of dollars that have been spent through the federalization of the education system, we're now, 24th, 25th, something like that?
Yeah.
So
it's
wait
been
till our colleges are like that too.
Yeah.
Wait till our colleges are like that too and cost more than they do now.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I still have student loan debt, and I am of the, take the money. Absolutely take the money. Like, I don't think that it is unprincipled for you to say, no, I'm not going to take that money and I'm going to pay the extra 10,000 because you're paying the government $10,000 at that point.
Oh, no, if it's available, take it.
Yeah. But what is going to happen is he's going to give the 10,000 and pause the debt the repayment until after the election. And then he's going to pause the repayment later. He's going to pause the repayment later, and he's going to keep kicking that can down the road, like we said, until 2020, until whoever's the next president. But if I was him, if he's actually running for re-election, or he wants the Democrats to win in 2024, before the election, just forgive student loan debt. And basically you're just waving the white flag to the people who have student loan debt and be like, we got rid of your student loans, vote for us. And he will try to entice people in that way. Similar to how Nixon, right before the 1972 election, made it where 18-year-olders could vote. And then said, hey, come vote for me. I'll get us out of Vietnam. So you won't be drafted. It's going to be the same type of mentality. To be fair, I predicted Trump would do this with weed, and I was wrong. But with this $10,000 forgiveness that will probably be signed by the time you see this episode, I believe that this is what he's going to do. He's going to hold on to that nugget until closer to the 2024 election, so that way he can say, look what we did for you. We got rid of the debt. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And so many people will be out there, they got rid of the debt. You know how much more I can afford? Without thinking about the massive effect that this will have on inflation, on debt spending, on everything else in our economy. Because what is it? It's stupid high. It's like $4 trillion. Is it out in student loan debt right now?
It's many $1 trillion.
Yeah, I don't remember what the exact number is, but that would be one of the largest spending packages ever. And it would be done with the sign of a pen. Like, I don't even think that needs to be voted on. I think he just could sign it saying, nope, we no longer accept these debts.
Yep.
Over. Done. Those debts need to be consolidated, so they will pay off those debts, and then in order to get that money, they will start taxing everybody more, which means the people who went to trade schools that only paid a couple $100, a couple $1,000, I don't know what trade schools cost, I'm sorry. They who have paid off, been making good money, they're going to start getting taxed more to pay for people who are working at Starbucks with their liberal arts degrees, who can't get jobs working anywhere else because nobody actually needs somebody with that degree. Before they started saying you can't, that you can't declare student loans on bankruptcies, people were going to school for typically legitimate reasons. You get your English majors, and those people, you don't really do anything with that degree either. But you'd get your communications, which is basically your general ed. So that way you say, I have a college degree, and okay, great. Or you got people who are going for business, or you got people who are going to law school. You got people who are going for things that could get them jobs. After they started doing the bankruptcy, schools started pushing the liberal arts degrees. They started pushing all of those degrees because they figured people would be enticed to come in to learn about something that interested them when they were 18 years old. And they could say, now you're an expert in this field. Good job. Go out, find a job. And people couldn't.
Yep, exactly.
But they couldn't declare it on bankruptcy. So they were stuck with that debt forever. And that is what has happened over the course of all time. And now they just push trash degrees. And another negative thing was you had the for-profit colleges start coming out saying, yeah, we'll give you an education, we'll give you a degree, and it's just as good as any other degree because 27% of people in America have a degree, so you may as well have a degree because that'll put you up above 73% of America when looking for a job. And people started going, okay, well, I'll go to these colleges because it seems it's much more advantageous for us. And you start going to them, and then all of the sudden, you realize your degree is worthless. You're still tied into that degree, to that loan, and you can't get it back because Joe Biden in the early 2000s said, let's just make it where they can't declare student loans on their bankruptcy.
Yep.
And then to turn around with the hubris that he has to say, I'm going to get rid of student loan debt. Dick, you are the reason the student loan debt is where it is.
Exactly. It's an absolute nightmare. And it actually, I'm looking back at this. He started this in the 1970s. So he at the same time was loosening loan eligibility. It started in the 1970s, loosening loan eligibility requirements and tightening the bankruptcy requirements. So you've got, make it so the lenders can lend out whatever they want, but make sure the students have to pay it off. And again, we're talking about 17, 18-year-old kids who are often making these decisions. We're saying that they're not old enough to drink. They're, in many cases now, they're not old enough to smoke. In some states, they're not even old enough to have sex yet. In California, you're not legally allowed to have sex until you're 18, but you can start making student loan decisions before that.
Really?
We decide that they're not allowed
in
to.
California?
They're not in California. 18. Asia Argento got in trouble with having sex with a 17-year-old. Yeah. So, who was like weeks or months away from being 18. But anyway, all that to say, you're many years away from being trustworthy enough to rent a car for a matter of days, but you can make a life-altering 5 or 6, potentially 6-figure financial decision for your future. And there's no way the lenders are going to be predatory at all, especially after they've been using Zach and Screech from Saved by the Bell to tell you that you need to do this to begin with. So,
and if you're listening to
this stuff is simple.
If you're listening to Screech on your financial decisions.
He was the only Jew on the show. I just want to be clear about that.
Well, yeah, but
we didn't know he was going to have all those problems afterwards, okay? All right? We didn't know that. We did not know that.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't know.
Okay, there are Jewish outliers, okay? But generally speaking, if a Jew gives you financial advice,
they were
it's probably good.
NBC was backing a horse, and they picked the right one. But I would have bet on that one.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That was, listen, it is, his name had Diamond in it. But rest in peace, by the way. The man's dead now. But his name had Diamond. Dustin Diamond? You're not going to trust Dustin Diamond for financial advice? What's your name? Diamond. Oh, well, then I guess I can't trust you because you come from a family that knows money so well that they're named after diamonds.
Wow, so you weren't lying about California. That's insane. The age of consent refers to the legal age at which a person must be in order to legally engage in sexual intercourse. This law applies to all genders without exception. It is legal for anyone over the age of 18 to have sex with a minor.
18.
So if you're 18 and 17, you're going to jail.
Law broken.
If you're 17 and 17, the way this is written, the law is broken.
Yes, but I think they have prosecutorial discretion there. But a 17-year-old sending a picture of their stuff to another 17-year-old? Child pornography.
Yeah. That's in most states.
Tried as an adult because of because of their laws, their sentencing laws, tried as an adult for sharing themselves as child porn, and because they're so vulnerable as a child to themselves, and we must, because it's such a serious crime, try this vulnerable child whose sexual images should never be as an adult. Try him as an adult. Yeah. So anyway,
You're going to be tried as an adult for child pornography.
As an adult, for your own
For your-
child porn of yourself.
Of yourself.
There is not a single part of that makes sense. And meanwhile, I'm not saying that teens should be out here,
Sexting.
Snapchatting their junk or anything like that. I'm not. That's not good. And one of the reasons you shouldn't do it is because it'll land you in jail for child porn as an adult, even though they're saying you're a child. This is like this is like the ego versus the id thing. You, the adult, are guilty of sharing images of you, the child, at the same time.
Can you?
Anyway,
could you imagine?
This episode is now about child porn laws in California.
Could you imagine how terrified you would be if the Senate put together a bill called the Student Loan Debt Forgiveness Act?
I'd run for the hills.
I wouldn't even know what to expect from it. It would probably be about child porn, but
we're going to forgive your loans by throwing you in prison because we're pretty sure that you once did something sexual as a child and allowed yourself as an adult to do. You, the adult, allowed you, the child,
of the exact same age,
of the same moment. You became two people. The victimized child, who we're also throwing in jail. The victimized child who was trafficked for pornography purposes, but you also, in that very moment, were also the predatory adult who was
victimizing this child, who is you.
Who was victimizing you, the child.
Oh my God.
This is mandated multiple personality syndrome, or whatever they call it now. Like it is an actual, like, we have legally determined you to be two different beings, both of which are in serious trouble. Gosh. So yeah, no, this is an absolute nightmare.
The victim isn't
going
in
to
trouble.
make things worse.
The victim's not in trouble. It's
talking about this.
Yeah, of course. The victim's not in trouble. The adult is in trouble. The victim's just going with the person who victimized the victim.
Well, sometimes you got to crack an omelet crack an egg to make omelets, right? No, I mean, so there's an inherent implicit acknowledgement in this case, I can't believe we're still talking about it, where the victimized child is like, they know this child's also going to jail for many years, but that's what you got to do to stop sex trafficking. It's the most absurd. Now, some other actual adult doing this, yes. Now a crime's been committed.
Yes.
Someone doing it themselves, folks, thanks so much for tuning into this hard-turned episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom that we had there. Be sure to tune in later this week. This weekend, we are having one more episode, and I know what you're thinking. I don't think you have 3 episodes a week. I think you only have 2. Well, we do have a third one, but only if you're a subscriber. What are we going to talk about? What are we not going to talk about? Am I right? Huh? Anyway, go to anchor.fm/muddywaters/subscribe to become a subscriber today. That allows you to get access to our weekly subscribers-only episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom every single weekend. You will get that. It also gives you access to an ad-free listening experience on all of the podcasting platforms, all of your favorite platforms, including Anchor and Spotify. It also gives you a members-only discount to the Muddy Waters Media Store, as well as some of our participating vendors, and all of this for the price of $10 per month. That is nothing. It is a nuisance fee. And you get all of that for only $10 a month. Anchor.fm/muddywaters/subscribe. If you are a subscriber, we will see you in just a couple days. And if you're not a subscriber, we will see you next week. Folks, we love you. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.